Hello, everyone, and welcome to a More Perfect Podcast. I am your host, Mike Winson. Today, we have a very special friend with us, a friend that I have known for a while, that I used to sing with full-time back many, many years ago. But I was bringing her in for a special reason. We want to talk about her experiences having a transgender child. Obviously, there's a lot going on when it comes to having someone who is part of the LGBTQ community in your family. There's a lot of things that you have to deal with. I thought it would be good to bring someone in who has experience with what it's like to have someone who is part of the transgender community, what kind of things they thought about, what the experiences they had from beginning to end, because there are a lot of people that are making assumptions about what it's like to be transgender. And obviously my friend cannot give us that, only her daughter can, but she can talk about what it's like from the moment of her child saying, I think I am transgender, and we can go through that process. So I want everyone to welcome my friend, Princess Pashley.
Spirit
Hi.
fingers, spirit fingers.
Spirit fingers. How are you doing?
Oh, yeah, I'm good. I've had some positive shifts in my life recently, and people in important places, in particular at my company, taking a chance on me and believing in me and my ability to lead. And that has been positive. So it's opened up so much creative bandwidth, my bandwidth to be a mother, speaking of being a mother, and to be a creator, a singer, a partner to my fiance. For right now, we're at like a pretty much 5-year high since entering the workplace.
That's what we like to hear. Considering what it was like 5 years ago, that, that's saying a lot. So good. I'm glad to hear things are heading in that direction.
Yeah.
So,
what are we curious about? Let's start there.
So many things. So I guess the first place to start is, at what age did your daughter, how did the process of your daughter coming to you saying, I'm thinking, what was that like for you guys and your family? Because I think there's this weird misconception that somehow, I don't know. It's really weird to me what people think. So that's why I say, how did it kind of start for you and your family?
So I'll introduce a little bit about my kiddo and really set a picture here, and then we'll jump to moment of impact, so to speak. My daughter has been complicated from birth, very complicated, and she has been exceptionally smart and gifted from the beginning. They normally don't test kids for gifted and talented until about 4th grade in our public school system. They tested her in kindergarten, and she tested exceptional in math and English, which is unheard of. Social studies, science, languages. So I want to set the stage that she is an incredibly intelligent individual who knows her mind. She is someone who struggles with ADHD. We figured out there's maybe a little bit of ADHD, which means autism and ADHD. But all that to say, she's a good prognosis.
Did your kid have Tylenol?
She was vaccinated and had Tylenol. But I will say,
I had to ask.
In this timeline, we have to ask, right? In the idiocracy timeline that we currently find ourselves in. But ADHD and autism runs in my family, and I would be very unsurprised if her father, who I respect very deeply, was not somewhere on spectrum, but he's never been diagnosed. However, this is an individual who's incredibly intelligent. He's a radiologist. He is the doctor you want looking for your cancer, right? So and then there's me. But she has my quick wit and my musical ability now that
She has your singing voice?
Singing voice, the jury's out because she hasn't sung in a while, but music theory, understanding of musical concepts, piano skills, so on and so forth. So
there you go.
So yeah, and we've had a long journey with her one way or another, either with social skills, either with completing her work. She was baffling educators from middle school on because she would not turn in homework because she didn't see the value in it, but she would test very, very well. So everybody's like,
yeah, my, just as a quick side. So my daughter tested really really high especially in math, but also in English.
Sure.
When she went into kindergarten, she already knew all the words that they were going to have to learn, and we tried to warn her teacher on that. When you went in early, and we're like, they like gave us a little card and said, these are the words we're going to learn in kindergarten. I looked at him and I said, she knows all these, and she looked at me like I had no idea what the hell I was talking about.
Don't they always, though?
And that was the hardest year of school my daughter has ever had.
Wow.
Because she was bored. So she was acting out, and the teacher couldn't understand why. And we kept telling her, she knows everything you are teaching her. We tried to warn you.
Right. Exactly. Well, because not to sidebar too much, but gifted education is a special education concern, right? Because in my daughter's case, didn't want to hand in homework, tested very well. So homework is diminishing return or something that's hurting her. So we just don't understand enough about gifted education in this country, period, end of story.
Yeah.
Not to sidebar too
No,
much.
you're fine.
Yeah.
Sorry. That was my job. That was my fault. I started the sidebar.
Well, you know me. I'm good for a good sidebar, but I wanted to set that stage for people to understand that this is a highly intelligent individual who knows her own mind, right? So COVID hits and we saw some struggles there with trying to complete remote school. She had a Section 504 designation, which is basically like, you cannot discriminate against my child because she has ADHD, right? They have to give her reasonable accommodations. And so she was not being met. So and she was male presenting at the time, right? So she went to her father's alma mater in Washington, D.C., an all boys school. So she was there. She was succeeding socially. Academically, it was a kind of a struggle. While she was there, she had this understanding about herself. And to this day, I don't forgive her for going to her father first. I wanted her to come to me first. But she did go to her dad and said, I think I'm a girl. And he's a Trump supporting typical male of that demographic, right? And I don't want to disparage people, but like certainly not in alignment, right? And then she came to me and she, and Liddy and I were quite a few years into our relationship, and he was already pretty much a father figure to her at that point, right? Yeah. And she told us, she's like, I think I'm a girl, and I'm artsy fartsy, and I've been exposed to the LGBTQ community nearly my entire life, right? So I'm like, great, honey. Like, okay, this is very serious, and I want you to take this seriously. Like, this because people say like kids don't know anything, right? And I should encourage calm and thoughtful. Make a thoughtful decision about this, right? Because it is serious. And so I said, I support you socializing right now, and let's go there. And I know this is scary, right? And so where we started at age 13 was she started to grow her hair out, and she started wearing skirts. At the time when she was attending the all boys school, there was a dress code of suit, tie, shirt. I don't want to talk about the ironing I had to do. So unable to dress the way she wanted to. Yeah. So, but at home, she was able to, she would wear skirts. She would wear this. And what does a feminine look even mean? Right. So we allowed her to, these days, who knows? So we were like, okay, let's feel the space out. Let's see how you feel. I want you to drive this. And some people think that that's insane of me to say, but a gifted child like my child needs to drive a little bit. Right. And if you do the reading about this, and kids who don't emotionally regulate very well, you know this to be true. So that dispels any we push something onto her. But I did put the brakes on it. I said, hey, again, take this slowly. She was under the care of a psychologist. She was under, not quite yet under the care of a psychiatrist. And then I want to say the following summer, she was with her psychologist, and we had a family meeting, and she felt supported. And, it was Liddy, me, and her dad. And her dad's partner at the time was not in that meeting, but very supportive of her. And she said, I'm Anna now, and I would like to see the doctor about hormones. And so I said, okay, honey, what would you like me to do? What can I do for you to support you? And we pulled her out of the all boys school and put her back into public school. And her current school system is an affirming school system, and they're in hot water with the DOE as a result.
Of course.
And so we went we started with the primary care physician. We said, hey, what are our options here? I said, Children's National is in the area. That's one of the big children's hospitals around here, but we weren't really excited about that because we live way the heck across the other side of DC. They said, there's this clinic here. Right. And it was 15 minutes down the road from us. And I read up on this doctor to make sure he wasn't, because there are bad apples in any community. And before you expose your child to anybody, you check up on them.
Absolutely.
This guy, Yale Medical School educated, 2 fellowships or residencies. I can't remember which one precisely. Your residency is basically your internship after you're done with medical school. Right.
Yeah.
Then you subspecialize in a fellowship. Right. So, but this guy had specialties in pediatrics and internal medicine, again, through Yale Medical School, and then like some very, very prestigious medical programs.
I normally say Yale is really good, but J.D. Vance did go to Yale.
Oh boy. So did George Bush. But did they go to medical school?
No, that's true. They did not go to medical school.
Well, let me read more about him. Let's see. Residencies. Is this the same person? No, that's not the same person. I just want to confirm. Awards, associations: American College of Physicians, American Academy of Pediatrics, President National Hispanic Medical Association, Gay and Lesbian Medical Association, American Academy of HIV Medicine, and his clinic associated with a very big hospital system here where I live, and I'm not sharing where I live. So they focus on, what do you call, medical issues with the LGBTQ community.
Okay.
So it's not just kids going in there.
Sure. Yeah.
So we have our first, so we schedule our first appointment, and you don't even see that doctor in the first appointment. There is a screening period, again, because everybody wants to proceed carefully in the medical community with youth, with minors, right? So I'll put that out there. At least in my experience, it's not a rushed thing. Nobody's shoving pills down kids' throats. So we have an appointment with the nurse. We're asked questions, test her ability to maybe handle HRT. Then they sent us over to a social worker in the office, and the social worker has a conversation with me, my ex-husband, and my kid. And then it becomes the doctor step. So that's a month later. We go and talk to him. He gives us a very thorough rundown of the consequences of HRT, because it's not without consequences, right? And we understand that, right? And, reduced fertility was probably the biggest concern for us. But whatever, I would rather my child be who they are than have grandchildren, right?
Amen.
So, yeah, he ran down. And then there's also this blood clot consideration, right? But she's a relatively healthy, extremely healthy
as healthy
kid.
As any of us are these days.
Yeah. So she, anyway, and then he performed an exam with me present just to see like where she was in Tanner stage with puberty. She was at stage 5, so not qualifying for puberty blockers. So, but you can take estradiol, and I think it's spironolactone, but for high level, it's a T blocker.
I mean, I was thinking that way before you talked about it.
Sure.
But I figured I'd let you explain.
Dump my
everybody.
brain.
Yeah.
And so there is some relief.
Because who hasn't heard of
spironolactone with their head?
Yeah, that. Yeah.
So, but anyway, so you can, even though a child has undergone full puberty, you can bring some relief, like socially. We allow her to present herself with long hair, wear pink, she, her pronouns. And these are things that just, by the way, don't hurt anybody else.
Nope.
Right. And so after that, they said, okay, you're moving forward with this, right? We had to get a letter from the psychologist stating, hey, this is gender dysphoria. I believe this to be a credible case of gender dysphoria. And then both her dad and I had to sign off an HRT. That was that was a difficult conversation. And I had to be very harsh and direct. And I had to say, listen, sir, you got 2 choices here, and neither of them are going to go your way. One of them could partially go your way. You can either deny this to her now. She will get access to this in 2 years, and she will resent you, which is an awful thing to say to someone,
Mhm.
or you can be a part of her story and make sure we undergo this journey safely.
Yep.
And so that was what happened. And certainly his partner at the time was supportive and in my court, right? Or on my side on this. So he signed off of it. So regardless of the custody situation in our state, both parents must agree to this. So in direct contradiction to what this administration has said about how this comes about for minors in most states, my state is pretty blue.
Yeah.
So even in a blue state, there is an abundance of caution and questioning.
Because again, it's a big deal.
It is.
It's a big deal mentally, and in the future, especially physically.
Correct.
Depending on what you as an individual decide to do. And
well,
we practically go through therapy to decide whether we should walk down the street these days.
Correct.
You think we're not going to go through it with this? That has always driven me crazy, that people think that it's that easy.
It's super easy. They show up at school and the teachers with their abundant
and 2 days later, I was about that was going to be my first question, was what day did you send your daughter to school or your son to school, and then what day did
2 days later
come back,
right? Exactly,
as a girl?
And as someone who is friends with a lot of public school teachers, I am highly resentful of that assertion that they would have any time or resources. Like, they can't even get pencils in their classrooms. So where do they have a scalpel to like whack body parts off, right? So, but we had a teacher on here about a month ago, and it was the same. I'm sure
it was like, I'm just trying to teach them to read words.
That's literally it. And teaching social acceptance of other kids is not dangerous to their mental health.
No.
None of her. So at the all boys school, her friend group knew, and they were unaffected. And I mean, most of them were, I mean, this is this part of the country and it's pretty liberal, right? But people seem to think that there is an impact on mental health to teach acceptance of LGBTQ. But when you say that there's something negative. Right. Or something other than, even if you're not going to go so far as to say negative, right? They were like, okay. And we've since brought Anna around Liddy's family, small children and a very liberal Jewish family. And one of the kids was a little confused. They're like, why is her name Anna? She has a deep voice and blah, 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 blah. And mother, my future sister-in-law, grabbed her kid right away and said, this is Anna. She's transgender. The kid was like, nah. And then kept going. Like, it's not not the mountain that people think it is.
No.
Right? So let's set that aside.
The idea that some people have that these kids are seeing other kids who say they're transgender, learn that they exist, learn that it's okay, and magically just go, you know what? This person's transgender. I must be transgender too. And again, arguably they have the right to say that, but that's not happening.
Is it factual? Absolutely not. So you have to be held accountable. And here's the problem with the conversation is people think that when I stand here and I say that's not true, please stop it, they conflate that with I'm silencing someone. And I was like, no, I'm holding you accountable for what you're saying. Yeah. Right. And people need to be held accountable for their opinions. If your opinions are harmful, if your opinions are misinformed, I have every right as a citizen of the United States in possession of a First Amendment, right? I can say to you that is dangerous, that is harmful. You shouldn't say it, right? So you have to.
Arguably, that has nothing to do with your First Amendment right. That just has to do with your right as a human being. First Amendment, technically, if we're being technical here, to any MAGA that may be listening, I doubt many MAGA listen to my podcast, but if you are, the First Amendment only protects you if you speak up against the government from the government.
Correct.
What we do when we silence you for misinformation or dangerous rhetoric is called living in a society and trying to make sure that truth and values and the preservation of safety for all people is something that matters. Yes. And in order to preserve that, we as a society do not want to allow harmful rhetoric to have station in conversation. We don't want to raise up false statements that can hurt other people.
Correct. And that's all I ask, right? And we can kind of pivot to like the mental state and the effects, right? It was probably the lowest moment of my life to hear that my child no longer wanted to walk the earth. Right. And that's really what's at stake here. When we make the argument for HRT, we see the statistics of unalivings in those red states, and those have spiked to like 72%. On this TikTok live I was just on, someone was asking me like, are you scared that they're going to change their mind and hate you for it? And I was like, well, let's talk about that. That's a legitimate question. I'll field that question because it's not grounded in hate necessarily. It's a curiosity. And
sure.
So let's talk about it. So the Yale educated doctor said, because we asked this question of him in front of our daughter, what is the recidivism rate for transgender teens, and in particular who were at her age? And at the time she was about 14 or 15, and she's now almost 17. What is the recidivism rate? It is lower than the failure rate of LASIK surgery.
Well, yeah, because this is the part that always just drove me nuts. It is still well known. And these kids, especially once you hit 13, they know, while they understand that in this day and age, it is safer than it used to be to come out as being part of any part of the LGBTQIA community, but especially the transgender community.
Yeah.
It is safer now than it was, which is great. I'm glad it is safer now.
Sure.
But there is still, as we have seen, unfortunately, a large portion of this country that does not accept them and looks at them
as a mental
in a
illness.
very poor light.
Yeah, I have heard things as insidious as, from my mother's family, we would recommend you to the state of Florida for your child to be removed. I have heard that I should not have even become a mother, period. I have heard your child has a mental illness and you need to deal with it right away. I have heard all sorts of really harmful things that keep me up at night.
So if your child or just anyone, if you are someone who, for whatever reason, doesn't understand, feels uncomfortable with, wants part of you wants to sit there and go, I'm not sure that they didn't get convinced that they were part of the transgender community. You need to think about what they are willing to accept walking out into the world as a member of the transgender community to be who they are. It's not as though they're just walking out and saying, I don't want to talk to people.
Yeah.
No one cares about that. They are going out and outwardly telling the world they're something that they know they will get backlash from.
Sure.
So if that's the part that drives me absolutely apeshit, is in this world, what they are willingly going through this. And the only reason that I don't understand I know what they say, but regardless, to be willing to step out and knowingly get the kind of backlash that they will get, even in the safest areas, at some point in their life.
And
they have to believe it down in their soul.
And we can talk about the victimology because people don't really seem to understand. I can't espouse specific statistics, but I can speak in generalizations, and that's good enough for this podcast here, right? And I used to work in anti-trafficking from one of the leading organizations in exploitation, specifically children. We refer to that as domestic minor sex trafficking, and that was a dark point in my life doing that work. So the evidence is there to support that transgender kids, gay kids, all flavors of the rainbow, right, are far more likely to be exploited than they are to exploit. So when I hear that transgender people are groomers, it doesn't make sense to me because I was in the statistics and I was in it. I was interacting with beautiful transgender people who had been trafficked and exploited and went through that. They are incredibly beautiful people, and my God. But part of this was also understanding the criminology of people who do groom and exploit. And it is most often Again, speaking in generalizations, it's most often white men in positions of power, and we see this regularly in the criminology. So if we're going to argue about harm to other children, we have to be operating from a place of facts. These kids are more likely to engage in survival sex that they don't want to engage in, to eat or to have a roof over their head. And that was the first thing I said to my ex-husband is like, I don't care what you think. I'm not turning her out because I know what happens to those kids out there. So let's operate from facts, right? And I don't see a lot of that in the anti-transgender argument.
No.
From MAGA and
because the anti-trans argument is completely based on fear and lack of any willingness to have knowledge or understand at all.
Yeah. And my father is a Trump supporter, as someone who he was a big shot COO, CFO for companies like Foot Locker, Yankee Candle, Cushman & Wakefield, Filene's. You're old enough to remember Filene's. All these retail stores. And so my dad really relates with Donald Trump in that way. And I don't know that I necessarily blame him for that, but I'm just kind of like, what are you thinking? Donald Trump is everything that you are not. My dad picked himself up from his bootstraps, right? He's that true American story, right? American dream. Yeah. And that he would support Donald Trump in this way, who had his career and his life handed to him.
Literally
handed to him.
Yeah.
But my dad is also a scholar of Christian theology, and he says it is nowhere in the teachings of Jesus that we need to treat transgender people this way. He says nothing about gay marriage. People cherry pick that and take that out of context. We're doing a lot of complaining about cherry picking Charlie Kirk, and we're not really looking at ourselves with scripture.
And I will say, the problem with Charlie Kirk was not that he cherry picked. Mm-hmm. It's that he said things in a way that were near impossible for quote unquote good Christians to argue against, mm-hmm. which made it really easy to convince people. If you say things, and there are literally entire studies on ways that you can say things, especially in the Bible, because the Bible is the most broad and vague book literally on the planet that has been translated and interpreted thousands of different ways through its entirety.
And I'm sorry, but I have come to only realize since I left my church when they started worshiping Donald Trump back in 2016, I just said, no, I mean, we can say whatever we want about some of the good things of Donald Trump, whatever they may be, but he is not any kind of accurate representation of family values. So that is just facts. No. So for someone so hardline to complain about the overturn of DOMA, Defense of Marriage Act, and then to also turn around and talk about biblical marriage and worship people like, who is that lady who brought that Obergefell back to the Supreme Court? What is her?
Obergefell? I don't remember her name.
I'm so sorry.
You don't need to. It's messed up.
That gal.
The whole thing is messed up. What?
I forget her name, but the gal who would not award marriage licenses to gay couples. You don't actually follow biblical marriage yourself. So is it good for the gander and not like whatever's good for everyone else is not for me?
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah. And didn't she get remarried 4 times or something like that?
Yes. And I don't resent, as a woman, as a divorcee, I do not hold anybody like there's this stigma with women getting divorced and leaving their husbands, right? I don't resent her for that. But to turn around and to say you stand on biblical marriage and to deny rights to other people, then we are going to turn around and hold you accountable for that. What biblical marriage? What does that mean? And I think that Christianity that exists in the evangelical world and the extreme world is it speaking of grooming, it grooms people to believe with their eyes or not with their eyes and walk by faith, right? And that sounds like a beautiful thing at first, but if you are prepping a population for a Donald Trump, for exploitation, for manipulation on such a large scale. So I worked for God-fearing people with that, the anti-trafficking organization, and they dropped everything and started worshiping Donald Trump. And I'm like, you're a God-fearing evangelical. And you see these bizarre videos. Like, have you seen the video of the woman like doing the painting of Donald Trump and she's like speaking in tongues?
Yeah.
It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my life. Right now, some of the churches that I've sung for and worked for, they're incredibly up to date and here in the now, right? And I see gay couples come in with their kids, transgender people come in, so on and so forth. So I know those critical thinking branches of Christianity exist. And I don't want to paint a broad brush or a broad stroke, excuse me. But as a rule right now, the evangelical branch of Christianity is incredibly exploitive. Incredibly. Sure. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Speaking of grooming.
So I have a couple questions that just everything you've talked about brought to my head. So how are things with your ex-husband in this whole situation now?
So he voted for Trump again in 2024, and he doesn't personally agree with it. He thinks HRT is self-mutilation. And he says this as a board certified physician, which is shocking. He's in possession of some really shocking views after becoming, he is one of those people, those men who became radicalized by Trump and Charlie Kirk's alike.
Yeah.
And it got bad in 2016. When I married him in 2009, it was not so bad. And he used to be a blue voter, and that changed. But now he calls her Anna. He shows up for the doctor's appointments. He picks up her medication for her. So on the very surface level, which is more than a lot of kids can ask for,
sure,
he is affirming, so on and so forth. His partner, who she tragically passed in her sleep March 2023, and may God rest her soul. Like she was incredible. The former assistant attorney general for Washington, D.C. She was much like me, but different. Very professionally accomplished, right? But a very strong personality. And she kicked him around a little bit, and he deserved it. I think she did it for me because she loved me. She loved me. So, but she was also very affirming of Anna. So she brought him round in a way on my behalf. So it's where I need it to be, but not exactly where I want it to be. I did not, I just can't understand having a transgender kid and voting for Donald Trump and the rhetoric that he ran on. And that's why I'm divorced. And I am marrying someone wonderful and affirming.
He's all right. He's okay.
He called around to the poll. We had just moved to a new voting district, right? And he called around to polling vote stations that morning of election morning to make sure we could vote in this election. Because I was busy and crazy and out of my mind. I think he was still working too, but his job was not nearly as demanding.
Yeah.
But that's the effort. And Anna is his kid as much as she is her dad's, right?
Yeah.
And the two of them, by the way, they have a beautiful relationship. Like not cozy, cuddly, fuzzy, but like it must have been 4 years, Mike, that like we were up in Brian's neck of the woods, and we had left his car down here. His car was broken into, and the airbag was ripped out of it. And your face was our face. But here's the only way we knew. The cops had ran the plates and called Brian's parents. And they call us. They're like, "Are you yonder?" And we said, "No, we are here." And they're like, "We think your car was broken into." So I called Anna's dad, and I was like, "Can you please go over there 5 minutes? Just it's this kind of car, make and model, license plate." He went over there, checked the car, took the pictures for us, and he's like, "Holy shit, your car was broken into and the airbag was ripped out."
Just cause
I guess Honda airbags sell well on the black market.
There you go,
guys. Crazy.
Be careful.
Be careful with your airbags. So anyway, but the point is, like, I have fomented positivity between the two of them. And he has a new partner now. Bailey passed. And again, I loved her. And his new partner is very, very accepting too. And so having
Good.
those figureheads, like she looked up like a support group here in our area, like, oh, would Anna like to go here?
Nice.
You know, so he's
That's
been
awesome.
brought along.
There you go. Hey, you know, sometimes you got to start there.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are many in the transgender community that would wish for even that as a minimum.
Correct. Or even just to have a home.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
what, obviously, now that Anna has been able to be who she is, at least to some extent, mentally, things are better because, you know, she no longer wants to consider taking her own life, which is great.
Yeah.
Amen. I mean, obviously you can't fully speak for her, but from your experience, at least, how has that experience from your perspective been, not only for her, what kind of changes did you see? Because I think that's the other thing that it'd be good to let people know, like, what was it like before to after, and what kind of changes did you see at that point?
Yeah. So but before I answer that question, I want to answer or talk about her attitude about going into bathrooms. And locker rooms and the experience in Curtin State. She will not go into any gendered bathroom and often will not pee all day because she has no desire to go into a public bathroom. They have swimming as part of the curriculum in her school, her county. And she had a full-on meltdown when they asked her to go into the locker room, change, and go swim. So she has so if there is the question of like, we're gonna lop our you-know-what's off so we can go into a locker room, certainly in my case, and in Anna's case, that is not.
Yeah.
Right. But so before she was very much secluded, angry, isolated, not engaged with her future, which is like some of that is normal teenager behavior and some of that is concerning, right?
Yeah, I'm dealing with that right now. So
video game piece, right? And I am as liberal as most parents, more liberal than most parents with the video gaming, right? Given my background and what I do on the weekends, right?
Same. For sure.
So, and I don't ascribe to this ideology that like if someone's into video games, they're violent or like whatever.
Yeah.
But we just wanted her to have other hobbies, but she was so scared to go out into the world. So
was this before?
Sorry.
Before.
Okay. Yeah. Anger, not wanting to do homework, not wanting to be engaged. So we started the HRT and she was also had anxiety, high anxiety.
Yeah.
And so when we spoke with a psychiatrist about this, she did share that like it's better. We can really ramp down the anxiety when we provide the affirming care that she needs. Absolutely. So we started the HRT. We saw the changes happen. Really, the groundbreaking experience for us was for her to go to camp and be surrounded by kids like her and adults like her specifically.
So she went to a
summer camp
for transgender children?
So not specifically transgender kids. They're welcome there. There is this higher umbrella of neurospiciness that camp has, and they have like a social worker on site to support kids who need a little more help. And it's up in a blue part of the country, right out in the woods. And so she went there for a week last year. That was the worst week of my life. So I'm like crawling my skin. They couldn't have devices and they couldn't call home. So I'm like, what's happening? And because she did not have a good time with it the first night. And she called and she's like, I need to come home. And I'm like, nope, you are going to be there a few more days because it was a heavy lift to get all the stuff up there. Right.
Yeah.
And she came home smiling and just a completely different person. Right. Yeah. So we go. So yeah, go ahead.
Before we jump on, for anyone that's listening that might have a child in that situation that might be interested in knowing the name of the camp, would you be willing to give privately, us the name?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't want I don't want someone who would choose irresponsible things to do and expose that camp to anything really negative. But yes, definitely reach out to me or Mike. about it. But yeah, so
Sounds good.
continued the HRT, continued. She was also put in an IEP for the first time at school. Her school was very affirming. As soon as we filled out like a preferred name form, they switched immediately. There was no judgment. I went to the principal and I said, thank you. It means the world to me as a mother that you guys are affirming and she's safe. And he said to me, she is so brilliant and friendly and warm and funny. We're so happy she's here, you know? So having support top to bottom is the ideal here. Right. So anyway, this past summer she went back to camp, and she came home. We had to bring her up to two friends of ours from Twitch things got married, and we went up to that wedding, and there was a snafu with communication with her dad, and he ran off to Italy and didn't take her. Even though I'd asked him, like, can you please, we're going to a wedding like months before, like, welcome to my life. So we're like, let's just bring her. Right. And she was welcome to be at the wedding, by the way, last minute, but she just wanted nothing to do with it. She's like, give me my laptop.
What teenager wants to sit at a wedding of someone they don't know?
And so we're going to be gone for 5 hours. She's 16. We left food in the hotel room we were in. And anyway, so, but on the ride up there and the ride back, that kid would not stop talking to us. And she wouldn't stop talking to us when we were in the room with her.
About camp?
Just about anything.
Just about anything?
When I say I felt like I had my daughter back, I mean that. Like, she wasn't just sitting there avoiding conversation, hating herself. So we are in a much better place as a family. I'm in a much better place internally. Forget about the political environment. Myself, I can feel more relaxed. She wants to go to college. She has goals in high school. She wants to earn the advanced degree that her school system offers, which is like, it's similar to like a baccalaureate degree, but in our state, we call it the advanced degree. And so she's engaged. Right. And so we have seen huge improvement top to bottom, socially, mood wise, engagement with her future, engagement with her schoolwork. She joined a D&D club this year, and this starts this Tuesday. Because she played the living shit out of Baldur's Gate. So it's been nothing but a positive.
Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
There is probably no better accepting game for people being who you are than Baldur's Gate.
And D&D in general.
Yeah.
Right. So if I could say anything to anyone saying this is a bad idea, kids shouldn't do this, kids don't know their own minds, please use maybe it's anecdotal evidence, but it is a primary source of information. We had a positive experience once we made it through, and I would not take it back for a day. And I would not take it back for a day. Can't speak for my ex-husband.
Nor would we want
to. But the political landscape, it still keeps me up at night.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that you and I had a conversation after the recent incident with Charlie Kirk. I'm
not laughing at the fact that what happened to him happened. I'm just
no.
Yeah. Make it clear.
But it's, I mean, that is a whole separate issue for anyone who's part of any marginalized community at this point. Yeah. One of the obvious dangers that all people that especially marginalized, but everyone that is at least outwardly progressive, is there is a group of people that are, it almost feels as though they are looking for reasons to blame. One of the bigger stories from after Charlie Kirk's passing was literally within hours of it being announced that he passed away, 10 historically Black colleges dealt with
bomb threats.
Like literally an hour after they had already decided that who had done it. And I know you had considered whether or not your daughter would even go to school.
Correct. I was very concerned
because of the fear. I mean, as a progressive creator, I know I was like, I hope I don't have to go outside. I've never met anyone out in the wild that has known me from my content, but I have never been scared to do that more than I was after this event and seeing the response that I got. For those of you that are listening, the day after this happened, I went live and I instantly got 20 death threats within 10 minutes of being live. And I had to pretty much shut down commenting in general on my live because of how immensely toxic that it got. And they hadn't even caught the person yet.
And that's what really scares me is I felt like it feels a little, I don't want to say or go so far as to say it was done on purpose, right? But it feels like the situation was being exploited for an agenda, right? Like, and or to fit a storyline.
Color me shocked.
Right. So
that this administration would use a horrible incident.
And I will go on the record here to say that Charlie Kirk did not deserve to die, be unalived. Charlie Kirk has every fucking right.
It's okay. This is YouTube, not TikTok. We're good.
I can't keep track of it, but
I know.
So he did not deserve that as a human being. As a parent, I wouldn't want that for him. I would much rather have sat with Charlie Kirk and shared my story and brought him to the other side. And we are a country of the First Amendment, right? So people can say, limited to causing harm, right? We can say what we want to without fear from the government or fear of violence,
Correct.
right? Violence, right? So folks like you, Good Trouble, Dean, or whoever, those are just people I know who do the political content. You have every right to be on here. And someone else, a Trump supporter, has every right to come here and say, hey, Mike, you're an asshole. That's who we are, right?
And then I have every right to block them if I want to.
But this is the point, is we're going through processes. We're not doing something so final as committing murder or assassinating someone, right?
Sure.
So, but I say that as someone whose child, who my flesh and blood, who I gave up my entire life for, her life is more endangered with him speaking his mind. Right. So, but I wouldn't ever watch that.
And honestly, we probably don't have time to go into the entire depths of what's going through mine and yours and a lot of other people's brains after this. I can tell you that from conversations that I've had with people that look like you and I, that have experienced the world the way we have, there is a massive struggle going on internally between our hearts and our heads, and the ability to wrap our heads around the fact that we don't want anyone to die like this ever. But we also cannot get past the harm that man has done with the words and the rhetoric that he has spoken, and the fact that there are millions of young men and women
forever changed,
that are forever changed, but also are mourning him for what I would consider the wrong reason, because I cannot say what Charlie Kirk has said. While it sounds Christian, it also, if you look deep into it, goes completely against everything that I've ever been taught. So that is a thing that people that look like you and I are struggling with. And then we've got people from the Black, Brown, Indigenous people of color and the LGBTQIA community, and even women that are just like, especially Black, Brown, Indigenous people of color in the LGBTQIA community, who are like, this is the world that I've been living in since I was born.
Sure.
Like, this is nothing new. Those are the ones that, and that is another, a point of, and you and I experienced that point sharply, starkly, because, and there is no easy answer. No. Everyone who is part of those communities got to where they are because they have grown up in a society that has started them 3 rungs down, and everything, and has done everything humanly possible to make it difficult to impossible to go any farther up. People that look like us in general start a little bit higher, so we don't see it the same way. it is just opening a Pandora's box.
And there's been an incredibly filtered version of this man delivered to people in Florida, Texas, wherever, aside from like their obvious hypocrisy and natural disasters that have happened or transpired the last 2 years. I'm not going to go there.
Sure.
But people are like, people seem to have a different set of information about him. And every time I send videos of the vile things he said, they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. So it's like,
yeah, because unfortunately Christians tend to self-filter.
yes.
Because they don't want the world to, they don't want their own brains can't handle that there's a problem,
or that there's
potentially
cognitive dissonance
with their religion, and they don't want the world, because they've been telling the world how good they are for their entire life.
Yeah.
They've been told that Christianity is amazing, and they want the world to believe that they are amazing. So when things happen that aren't amazing, they either filter it, they filter what they say through their beliefs, which is why they'll say things and they'll be like, well, that's not how I heard it. Or they will just filter it out altogether. It won't even make it to them. Or they will say, you know, they're not a real Christian, which I've gotten a million times. You know, every time I make a video and be like, I'm a Christian and this is what Christians are saying to me, or this is what he is not. And I'll get in the comments, he's not a real Christian. This, you know, I'm like, he says he's a Christian. This person says this person is saying they're a Christian. And you know what? To people that have been hurt by the church or don't believe in the church and don't believe in God and all this other stuff, I don't have a little thing above my head that says, you know, green for good. Right. They just see the word, they hear the word Christian. And until we accept that and do something about it, this is always going to be an issue.
And I need people who are on the right and are so star-spangled blue to understand the distinction between America being a country where it is okay to be a Christian and America being a Christian nation. We fled I don't want to say that, I don't know which word to use, but the English who came over here were fleeing persecution. And that's why our founders have the separation of church and state. And new candidate for Senate, I believe, James Tallarico, a Christian.
Yeah.
He has said this. Jesus would not have wanted this. He said, give to Caesar what is Caesar.
And to be fair, he's already getting the ultra conservative Christians saying that he's not a real Christian.
It was never about domination. It was always about opening the table in the tent.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Well, before we end, do you have anything that you could give them? Anything that helped you as you were going through this?
Get a partner as supportive and amazing as B. Liddy, first of all. No, I'll put it the way my daughter put it the other day. I gave her the instruction. We are not doing any disrespectful or dancing around the corpses of people who have passed, right? And I said, do you want to go to school today, honey? It's a little scary. And she said, I have hope in humanity. So that's the first place to start is, you know, we still see the humanity in one another. Find community, find people who you can lean on. I will call out the Trevor Project here because there was recently funding pulled from them for the suicide hotline. Donate whatever you can to support those people who had the training and the knowledge to assist. I mean, because the issues that are faced are very profound. And my work in anti-trafficking has shown me that sometimes we do more harm than good if we directly try to reach out and help ourselves.
Sure.
So try to empower the people who can help and have the knowledge too. So yeah. That those are good places to start. Yeah. And you are every human life is valuable.
Absolutely.
Even MAGA.
No argument there.
Even MAGA.
Some days that's a hard thing to say, but you know what?
My daughter was able to say it and she's the one whose life is in peril. And I was very inspired by that. I was like, oh my God.
That's fair.
What does that say about me as a parent? I don't know. Maybe that's narcissistic, but makes me feel very proud. Of who she is.
At least makes you feel proud of, or at least makes you feel hopeful of the future.
Yes.
If nothing else. Pashley, where can everybody find you?
You can find me sometimes on the Clock app. whenever the time allows. But most of the time on Twitch at Princess Pashley, twitch.tv. I do rotating shows on Saturdays. Sometimes I'm doing games and singing. I am a trained opera singer who set that aside to become a parent. And then every other week we do a vocal coaching session, me and two other creators.
Yep.
And it's a super fun show. And we bring people up and work on songs with people. And so if that is something you're interested in, I am definitely the space for you. If you're a weirdo, I'm the space for you.
Pashley, thank you again for hanging out with me, and everyone that made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much. This is a coalition and community that thrives and survives on the support of all of you. And we are a community of people that believe that all people, no matter your race, religion, gender, or identity, deserve rights, respect, dignity, and safety. As we move forward, as long as we have that line in the sand, that basis, then we have the capability of getting through and past and forward on about anything. So if you liked what you heard here today, please consider liking and subscribing down below. We're also on TikTok, we're on Substack, we're on Apple and Spotify. We're all over the place. We're trying. We're getting the umbrella as far as we can go. And for all of you that are supporting me in what we do here in all those spaces, thank you so much. We will see you the next time
on the next one
on A More Perfect Podcast. Thanks, guys.
Bye.